All right, let's dive into this because it's a story that's way bigger than just a radio station cutting staff. Cumulus Media just axed some major on-air personalities at 99X, and honestly, it's a gut punch for anyone who's ever tuned in. But here's the thing. This isn't just about Jill Nelson, Steve Barnes, or Crash Clark losing their jobs. It's about the death of an era, the struggle of traditional media, and what it means for the future of radio. Let me break it down for you. First off, 99X wasn't just a radio station. It was a cultural landmark, especially for Gen Zers who grew up on Pearl Jam, Nirvana, and No Doubt. Personally, I think what makes this really interesting is how deeply tied this station was to a specific generation. It wasn't just playing music, it was shaping identities. So when Cumulus cuts these hosts, it's like they're erasing a piece of history. One thing that immediately stands out is how Steve Barnes called it the end on social media. That's not just a dramatic statement. It's a reflection of how deeply this hits. What many people don't realize is that radio stations like 99X were more than just music. They were communities. They connected people in a way that streaming services never can. Now, let's talk about why this happened. Cumulus Media is in financial trouble, and that's no secret. But here's where it gets fascinating. This isn't just about one company's mismanagement. If you take a step back and think about it, this is part of a much larger trend. Traditional media is dying, and radio is on the front lines. Streaming platforms, podcasts, and social media have completely changed how we consume content. What this really suggests is that radio stations are struggling to stay relevant, and cutting costs by letting go of beloved hosts is just a band-aid solution. It's not fixing the core issue, it's just delaying the inevitable. What makes this even more heartbreaking is the personal impact. These hosts weren't just voices on the air. They were fixtures in people's lives. Crash Clark, for example, was a midday host who brought energy to the station. Steve Barnes was a legend from the 90s who came back to revive the station in 2022. Cutting them feels like cutting the soul out of 99X. In my opinion, this raises a deeper question. Can radio stations survive by stripping away the very personalities that made them special? I don't think so. It's like trying to save a sinking ship by throwing the lifeboats overboard. Here's another angle to consider. Cumulus Media isn't the only one struggling. Radio stations across the country are facing the same challenges. From my perspective, this is a wake-up call for the entire industry. Radio needs to reinvent itself, and fast. It's not enough to just play music or have charismatic hosts. They need to offer something unique that streaming can't. A detail I find fascinating is how some stations are experimenting with live events, exclusive content, and community engagement. That's the kind of innovation that could save them. But let's be real. Not every station has the resources or the vision to pull that off. Finally, let's talk about the fans. The outpouring of support for these host shows just how much they meant to their listeners. People aren't just upset, they're mourning. This isn't just about losing a radio show. It's about losing a piece of their lives. Personally, I think this highlights something bigger, the emotional connection we have to media. It's why we get so attached to certain shows, hosts, or even platforms. When they go away, it feels like a part of us goes with them. So where does this leave us? Cumulus Media's cuts are just the tip of the iceberg. The real question is whether radio can adapt and survive in a world that's moved on. In my opinion, it's going to take more than just cutting costs. It's going to take creativity, innovation, and a willingness to change. Otherwise, we'll just keep seeing more of the end posts from the people who made radio great. What do you think? Is this the beginning of the end for traditional radio? Or is there still hope for a comeback? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts.